All right. Special meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We'll begin with approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of September 19th, 2023 board meeting.
I'll move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3, discussion of possible action on land purchase. To give a very brief background on this, and I'll turn it over to Mark. We've been kind of working on this for the last couple months, probably. It's actually went pretty quick. And what we're looking for is a collaborated effort between the county, the city, Legacy, and GoPit, correct, on a certain piece of land that's been a point of contention for quite some time here in the city. So, Mark, what do you take it?
So without going into too much detail, we have been afforded the opportunity through a lot of negotiations with the business here in town to acquire a piece of land that we have been working on for roughly 6 years as a community to take back local control of that property. And we believe that the economic impact stands to be very substantial for the city, for the county, for the school district, and for workforce development, with the possibility of 18 to, depending on the type of home that could be put on it, between 18 and 30 homes. This is a unique opportunity that I believe that our Autumnal region is only going to have one crack at, and we're getting offered a price point to purchase this property and redevelop it at a price that I don't think that we would have been able to get, definitely not 5 years ago, but I don't think that we took the opportunity a second time around to achieve the price point that we're receiving right now. We have been working with law Allers and Cooney out of Des Moines for the past couple of months, doing the back end negotiations with us. And we've also been working with both the company who owns the property as well as the company who is in possession of the mortgage at this point. And we think we have all the parties gathered together in a unified fashion to make this roll forward. We're about 99.8% there, and we just need to get it past the finish line at this point.
How much are you looking at?
$11,250. There'll be additional legal fees throughout the course of this, and we've talked about that throughout the course of this, which will be minimal in respect, with the four-way division.
So this land purchase really won't be purchased by Wapello County.
Correct. The deed order will be the Economic Development Foundation for GoPip. It's the Greater Autumnal Development Foundation. They'll be the official deed order of the property. This will be a collaborative effort, though. All 4 of the purchasing entities will be sitting at the table through the entirety of the process. That's part of the purchasing agreement.
So I think today, we can do it a couple ways. We can contribute the $11,250 to GoPip or to the foundation, or we can contribute $15,000, $18,000, whatever it may be. Then that covers the legal fees of it, and you don't have to come back to us for.
I'll be honest with you. I would rather the
Just come back.
11,250
Okay.
and then do an invoice from the taxpayer's perspective. If you're giving us 18,000 and it doesn't cost that much, we'll just have to cut a check back. So
you're asking for $11,250 of a total budget. Can you tell us what that total budget is for the?
I could give you a rough estimation, which would probably be under $20,000.
But the price of the property,
Yeah,
45,000.
yeah.
Yeah, the total project for this piece of it is $45,000, so it'd be 11,250 each entity.
Okay. Have you done the homework on clear title and environmental issues? Is that all resolved?
So yes, we ran the abstract through legal. We've had 2 different title opinions on the property. There's a minor clerical issue that can be resolved with no accord. That's no big deal. We have the 2015 environmental reports that were done on the property. We have started the process of ordering the updated environmental reports. So that's all taken care of. Most every bit of the due diligence has been completed at this point.
And then do you have a budget in mind for what it's going to take to do roads or?
No, that'll be part of the RFP process. The
So,
city of Ottumwa at one point had put together a couple of different proposals for that property. However, those were based on old designs that may not be, number one, may not be relevant at this point in time, but over and above that, the prices have fluctuated so much since that point in time, and now that there would really be no relevance to what those prices would be comparable at this time.
Are you going to propose to use a developer to develop it, or are you just going to sell off single lots?
No, the intention at this point is for the group to get together with a few other interested parties in the community and to put together an RFP process to go out and to open it up to all developers. Because what we don't want to do is end up in another situation where we are handing the property over to somebody who might not be financially able to handle the project, or has an unrealistic timeline of 5 years or 10 years when we want it done in 2 years or 3 years. So we want to open it up and make the best and most well-equipped developer win.
And I think, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong on this, number one, the land's already TIF'd. So a lot of the infrastructure work, the road work and things like that could be done by the city. All in,
That's
with the development that we're hoping for in a couple of years, that pays that back. Hopefully we're looking at like a 10-year sunset on that stuff. Then it'll start realizing some of it into our general funds on that. I think that was done probably 4 years ago.
Yeah,
Something like that.
2018, 2019, something like that.
So that part's done. And then number two, I know there's, it's been talked about a lot to build a single family home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. They're $40,000-$50,000 upside down on it. The developer is now, of course, that's also counting in all your stubbing in all your utilities and different road work and the land acquisition, the things like that. So we really think with this and we're getting I think an unbelievable deal
Yes.
on that amount of land in the middle, in a good area. And I think just the ability to put some new houses in and help develop an already existing very nice neighborhood would help home values there as well, and give those developers a leg up and the ability to bid something and still make some money on their end.
And to your point, one of the things that we've already done just as a preventative measure is we've already opened up the lines of communications with like Mid-American Energy and Alliant Energy to find out upfront what we can do to help subsidize some of those connection fees to further drive down those costs. We already have, the city of Ottumwa has a grant for completed address units in place to help offset some of those costs, with the land acquisition costs being lower than what they could be, in any other infill development in the area. We think that we can really, with this, go a long way to closing that gap. The big issue that we're going to have as far as hookup fees are really going to be with sewer and water. In most areas of town, we might have a little bit of a bigger issue with that, but in this particular area, we do have sewer and water completely encompassing this property. So it's going to help minimize that cost. And since Obviously, there's no infrastructure already there. We won't have to tear up concrete to get into those spots. That'll help drive it down as well.
And so you're rather positive on the single family as opposed to any kind of apartment.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Going
anybody's
single
intention. I mean, other than a Dollar General and a
Yeah.
roundabout, I don't think it's anybody's intention. That was a joke. It's nobody's intention to have anything other than single. Now, there could be some condos. I don't know what direction that would go, but the full intention is to have market rate living in that area, something that fits the aesthetic of the neighborhood. That's very important, that we don't put anything that's out of line with the housing and the people who are already living in there.
Yeah, I always like to approach from the standpoint of using local contractors and using anybody local that we can, as opposed to outside the area. And I know you know that. But
Yeah.
Any further discussion, questions, or comments?
Where is this at?
Greater Temple Park.
That's a joke too.
Yeah, I guess I'm pretty being built in Greater Temple Park.
I don't know. Are we revealing the address yet?
It's on the north side of town.
That's about all you can say.
That's about all I can say at this point.
Awesome. So is this something that it'll have to be approved by the city as well?
There are certain facets of it that will have to be approved by city. There are certain pieces that council action has already been taken on the property. So we still got a little ways to go on it.
Okay.
But some of it's done, some of it's not done at this point.
So when will you be able to reveal where this is gonna be?
As soon as humanly possible. We've got one little piece that we've got to make a hurdle over before we can do a public press release on it.
Okay.
So, and trust me when I say we're all very much anxious to do the press release.
And do you anticipate that we would have to contribute more in the future? Or do you feel like this is the
Well,
final ask for us?
you know, I'll never say never.
Right.
Obviously, there's legal fees that are gonna have to be contributed towards. And I would say we're probably already accrued 50% of those legal fees if I'm a betting man. And the four-way split of those is probably about $500 or $600 at this point. So, but you know, if it would be a conversation point in the future if there's going to be any contribution towards infrastructural development or any county incentives that might be in place. So, but that would be a future discussion.
So is this just one parcel of land then? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
At this
So you're talking
juncture,
several acres probably.
Correct.
To have.
Brian,
Yeah.
That's my job. I gotta work the perimeter a little bit. I know.
I mean, I think it's one of those we all know, it's just you can't say. How's that?
I think he already knows.
Brian, do you have
But I will obey everybody's wishes.
Yeah.
And like I said, it really isn't a land purchase. This actually, when I did this, I probably should have just done it as a contribution to Go Pip, but regardless, I mean,
the source of money for this?
we'll use a local option
Yeah.
on this, yeah. And then I don't think out of our economic development fund, I don't think there's probably much more you could contribute as far as economic development and again, in such a small amount for the.
So
For
the
the
price
payback.
of the property is 45,000 and that's split in 4 ways, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Are we ready for a motion? Are we?
So I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Now, second.
Any further discussion? Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution number 50, 2023, Mid-America Port Commission. So the Mid-America Port Commission encompasses part of Illinois, southeast part of Iowa, Des Moines, Henry, Jefferson, Lee, Van Buren, and Wapello counties. This is to fill a vacancy on the Port Commission with Shelley Altman. She lives in Keokuk, I believe, And this is really just something that every county has to do a resolution on appointing her. So,
I'll make a motion. Winner.
Could I ask a
Yeah.
question before we? Do we know anything about this?
Nope.
Shelley? I mean, do we feel comfortable?
yep,
Okay.
because we don't know anything about the Port Commission.
Okay. Is this something we should know more about down the road or?
I've been here 7 years and I think this may be the second person we put on this. So
Okay,
you can research it
okay,
to your heart's desire.
thank you.
You want.
Okay. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Full disclosure, I've had this for probably a month and a half and again, didn't realize that we actually have to, I thought it was just a thing saying, hey, she's on this, so.
We're good.
Other business come before the board. We do have some news, I think could be exciting news on the childcare front and Shay or.
Let me roll that paper over.
We can't really talk about it anymore.
Okay, that'll be fine. Thank you. How much you want? We'll walk away.
Yeah. So yes, we do have some exciting news. We have partnered with CETA and Brian Dunn, the executive director, has taken it to their board to discuss opiate childcare and partnering with the Tacoma Regional Health Center with their building that was once a childcare. And the ask from Tacoma Regional is that they will do zero rent for CETA if we can figure out a way to make the taxes somehow zero on that, for only the building that the childcare will reside in. And that way, Brian and CETA will not have to pay that cost, and Tacoma Regional will just donate that building. No, I'm gonna toss it back to Brian.
No, I guess my only question on that is, do they want this perpetual? Year after year?
Year after year, as long as the childcare is in the building.
Okay,
If CETA chooses to vacate at any point, they will go back to paying taxes on it.
Okay.
So this is alleviating the rent, essentially. It's the same cost for rent of the building as the taxes. So essentially, CETA would be paying just to pay the taxes of the building. So if that's alleviated, then that cost doesn't need to be paid for. CETA has also agreed, if it was approved by their board, to do the remodeling of the building at no charge cost to Tacoma Regional to keep that in there. That rent as low as possible.
And I believe Brian said last night that he pays $6,000 a month rent, so we're actually the tax is a little cheaper than the rent, so.
Yeah, if we. I think of where I've got $6,000 from, yeah. So right now we would be relocating some folks and we pay about $30,000 a year in space in Tacoma right now. So we would be relocating some of our Head Start classrooms, and that would save us rent where we're currently renting. And then if we have the rent-free lease in perpetuity until we leave it, then there would be no cost. But if there was a period of time where they charged us $2 per square foot per year or $3 per square foot per year, as we've discussed, then there would be some rent to CETA in that building. And nothing has been signed yet, but that was part of the discussion as well. And so I'm hopeful that with the generosity of the county and other supporters in the community that we can have, since there would be essentially no cost to the hospital, that they would keep that rent-free lease going longer than the initial 3 years. And I think that's maybe where that's.
And this will open up 30 new childcare spots, possibly more, and then also have the Head Start program. And so those children could technically be with CETA all the way up until they're ready to go to school full time. And so this is going to give a really great opportunity. We are a childcare desert, and this is just one step in the right direction of many other opportunities that we will have.
Yeah, and I think just for the public's knowledge, that we've been a childcare desert in Wapello County for quite some time. Right now, we're sitting at about 4,000 slots that need to be filled in the county. That got a little bit worse with the recent news of Indian Hills closing their facility, which created a little bit more of a gap. And we're lucky in respect to the fact that unlike a lot of communities in the state of Iowa where they don't have the childcare positioning, nor do they have the space. We have the space in our community. We just don't have the childcare availability. So having a group such as CETA coming in that is willing to take on that task to open those spaces back up that we lost when Indian Hills announced the closure of their facility helps alleviate some of that gap that we didn't have to worry about, 4 months ago. So, and specific to having them having as low of a price point as they can have, the issue that causes having that childcare gap to begin with primarily is because of salaries. The reimbursement rate from the state of Iowa is exceedingly low. Childcare providers are typically paid roughly in the $9 to $10 an hour range, and most of the state licensed daycares around here anyway. That becomes problematic when you look at entry level jobs elsewhere in the city. So, your gas stations, your quick service restaurants, places like that are opening up jobs like $15, $12, $15, $16 an hour. You're going through the process of getting all of the certifications for your staffing, and then they're offered a job at a Subway, for example, making $16 an hour. So your daycare providers are immediately losing those people. With having the overhead costs as low as they can possibly be for someone like CETA who's willing to take on that risk, this affords them the opportunity to garner a competitive wage for their staffing and consistent salaries for their staffing. That way they can keep those slots open, and then that takes a little bit of worry away from the city for those particular slots and allows us to focus on, getting the physical space at Indian Hills back opened again, or exploring other options within the community.
Also, this is Atomo Regional is wanting to be a really great community partner, and they obviously need a win, and so they were more than happy to partner with us on this. And I guess.
What's that?
Can you say you've been approved?
We've been approved. I mean, we have to still negotiate the lease. But the terms that have been offered are agreeable to our board and me. And the challenge, as Mark said, is frequently with staffing, even with the generosity of the Atomo Regional Health Center, the margins on just the infant toddler, the daycare section of that building are razor thin. I mean, because we're offering more competitive wages, retirement, other benefits, because that's what CETA does for our employees. And so we can't necessarily, I won't say we couldn't, we won't carve out certain positions and say, you may have similar responsibility to a grant funded project, but we're going to pay you less because that could be money out of CETA's pocket or our donors' pockets. So it is very difficult to make a go of daycare if you're doing it just as as the market bears, and particularly if you want to do that while also offering. I won't even go as far as saying, living wages, competitive wages, more competitive wages.
And this will also give us an opportunity that one of the biggest problems with daycare is having quality, affordable childcare, and this will be able to give both to our community.
And I guess, unless there's any other questions, the last thing that I would say is we've been around talking to the major employers in the community. As they're trying to recruit people into the community, there are two things that they bring up consistently, almost 100% of the time. The people ask about housing. First and foremost, where are they gonna lay their heads at night? And then the second thing is, it doesn't appear that we have any place to send our kids during the day while we're coming to this new position to work. So if we want to talk about workforce development and general economic development in this community, in this region as a whole, really, then we need to do as much as we can to help foster the daycare situation here.
So legally, we can't excuse the taxes. We can make a contribution to CETA to help offset that, to where, in a sense, CETA's paying the taxes, call it rent, whatever, on that. I'm confident for this year, we could do that. I don't know about perpetual. That's my worry, is I'd be worried. Again, so I'm blue in the face. We don't know. This money would come. We do have some money out of our budget this year where we haven't had a secretary. We still budget for that. We could realistically about pay that out of our budget without having to do an amendment. We have a local option tax again. I think this plays in. I don't think you'd have to make the argument that this plays into economic development in your childcare stuff. We receive about $45,000 a month, Kelly, into that fund. So, I mean, realistically, to say 1 month out of the year would go, to this contribution. Normal times, I would say I would fully support doing that to try to, kickstart some childcare stuff in Wapello County. My worry is always what's going to be done at the state level next year when they're talking about taking away local option tax. How does that play out? Is that if we make a 3-year commitment, let's say, to CETA on this, and the state comes in next year and says, well, we're taking your local option tax and we're going to give you whatever agreement you have are null and void, that may be something we'd have to tackle then. I'd be in favor of at least for this year.
Would the money go to CETA, or since the deed holder's the hospital?
Would have to go to CETA, because CETA's I don't think we can make a contribution to the hospital. Because they're a private business.
Yeah, I don't think we would. Yeah, as a modified 501c3.
Right.
I prefer CETA.
Yeah. Yeah, so let us navigate that. I mean, at least after this year. And again, I'm speaking for me, so.
Is it a contribution or is it an agreement or a contract to provide infant toddler daycare in Wapello County?
We could do either way. Yeah,
And I prefer a contract or
Right.
some kind of conditions to
Yeah, I believe that.
yeah, probably would. Well, technically, we have to have a contract with everyone.
Yeah, it's a year is good.
And years would be better. 3
Well,
years would be
yeah,
great.
it's the,
And I'm not saying we can't do that. Like I said, when I first talked about it, in my head, I just went, the 35.5 for this year, and the hospital was happy with that. And then I didn't understand the perpetual part of it. So again, I'm not saying no.
So every year we have to come back? Or how?
Well, unless we're confident and this is something we don't need to decide today. I mean, I know it'll have to be in the very, very near future, like next week, but we could do a 3-year agreement, a 3-year
Contingent on what the
contract.
state says.
Correct.
I think, question.
I think I'd be willing to do 2 or 3 years, just because 1 year just doesn't get them
Right.
going very far.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 year.
And then every 3 years, come back and take it. It's Brian's. No.
yeah, that's fine. I think. And we'd have to revisit it with our board in 3 years, but because or in a year when things change, because the board it was not in the proposal, but it was discussed that, there would be the county's, contribution or agreement to the project as well. And so, yeah, we just have to revisit that with our board if the conditions or the terms were to change.
So to get back to the numbers that we kind of discussed before, so you're moving some of your Head Start or all your Head Start.
No,
So-
there's not enough room.
Will this be creating more Head Start?
No, it would, so as we've approached this, by my reckoning, and our childcare professionals, right, there are enough preschool slots to serve those 3 and 4-year-olds that were formerly served by Indian Hills, either through Head Start or Pickwick or other preschool providers in the community. So the real loss is in those infant toddler slots. And so our plan is to move there's 6 classrooms in that building. So 4 of them would be Head Start. 2 of them would be an infant toddler daycare. And so we're looking at if we can fill it about 30 slots for infant toddlers. And we really need to have HHS, Health and Human Services, come and look through the building. And they have to measure it. They have, because there are requirements for square feet per child. And so while there may be some numbers that were written down, they're not really solid until HHS says, yes, you could have 20 kids in the space or 15, but we're anticipating about 55 to 65 children for Head Start in that building. So there could be from, at any given time, 50 to 90 children in that, if I'm doing math correctly, 30 and 60, yeah, that's 90.
Casey, I'm gonna assume how many slots was it Hills for 0 to 3? Was it about the 30?
No, they have more classrooms.
We have more classrooms and the licensing would be for 48 for that age, just based on our classroom sizes.
Okay.
One more than that. Probably 60. For the 0 to 3s.
So this would fill half of that void.
Yeah.
Do we know how many slots the hospital would fill or retain as a?
The
request.
hospital has asked that they have some sort of priority.
Okay,
We have not yet, but as we move forward, we'll put together a selection criteria. And so we do that with our preschool. And so because Head Start serves low income folks, it's, generally if you're on SNAP, you're on, so many points, yada, yada. And so we would do something similar for the private pay. And so an extra point or 2 may be given to Ottumwa regional employees, and that would be part of the negotiation.
is this a standalone building on the regional?
It's
oh,
a
regional-
sleep center, you're familiar
Yeah,
with, it's that one.
Did you check assessed value of that? Is it possible to do that?
Like on Beacon?
Yeah, or just to know what it is compared to the.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's located separately, but I don't remember what.
It's
the-
935 East Pennsylvania.
935 or 931?
935.
So is it on the hospital campus now?
It is.
Okay.
And then, 35,000, is that the tax that's tied to that? Assessed
That's
value?
one building.
That's, yeah, okay, that's what.
So it is sitting on 2.32 acres.
I don't know how it goes. Right, what is paper?
With an assessed value this year, land and building of 1.143 million.
Okay, thank you.
We have to have a resolution for the next meeting, right? Right.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do a resolution, but yeah. we have to- Something back on the next meeting, so think about what you want to do and we'll go from there on,
Okay.
so, yes.
And if I may, for you and the folks in the room as well, or at home. This is all. Nothing has been signed anywhere. This is all with a fair amount of blue sky in it, and so nothing has been finalized. This time next month, it could all be gone because so much depends on everybody coming together and supporting the project. And so if one piece falls away, the entire thing could fall away. So I don't want anybody to assume that this is decided. There are a lot of folks that would love for this to happen, that are working hard for this to happen. But if all these pieces don't come together, it falls apart. And that's not to say you guys have to do your part or anything like that. That's just the reality of the situation. And so I want everybody to understand that clearly.
So the next meeting, it will be on the agenda to be voted on with a resolution,
Yeah,
so next Tuesday, and I think.
Got that, Brian?
Yeah, I'll start up the stairs
You
tomorrow.
just stay here.
yeah, I think, I think as we'd said, when it was talked about when Hills announced the closure. I think we all agreed, we know the battle that's going on in the county with it. We all hated to see it. Not much we could have done about it at the time. We wasn't approached about anything with it. And, with something like this. Again, it fills half those spots anyway. So it's a small step in the right direction. I think if nothing else, even just the discussion shows our commitment to the issue, that we know what it is, and the same with, the housing stuff and the things like that, that I think, we want to be good partners in all this stuff with it, so. Yeah, and just make sure we got the money as much as anything, so. So. All right, so we'll have something on the agenda next week. Anything else to come before the board?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.